Okay, here we go. No name, welcome. Well, I should probably, let me see if I can open it here. Oh, it feels like it's been a while. I don't know. Did I do this last month? I must have done this last month, right? Leon, welcome. Red, you're just about to sleep. I'm sorry. Frank, Kamikaze, Lenny, McFan. Welcome, everybody. Yes, with only 5 winners. You say only 5 winners, but you know that's sort of the assumption that I'm obliged to do more. But that was not the. I'm talking about this thing, not the regular giveaway where I just do it from a video and people comment or people like put the comment under the video. That's from Plarium. So they send those out themselves. Okay, so the description should have this as well, but I'm gonna put it here. There we go. How to pin that. So don't just give the number. I'm gonna need the letter I, letter D, and then the colon. That essentially works as a keyword, and so that's what I end up searching for later. Otherwise, I have no idea. Like, what am I doing? Am I searching specifically for your ID? I don't know what your ID is. I don't know how to find it. So yeah. And that's that's how I distinguish between people who are like maybe someone says, should I buy brick house? It costs like 1 point something million credits. You list out the number of credits. You know, I could interpret that as an ID, but it's not an ID. It's a number of credits. It belongs to the question. So yeah, that's basically just a way to distinguish it. It is not case sensitive. You can put a space between. You could put a space after the colon or not. Doesn't matter. But you do need those 2 letters and the colon. Make sure it doesn't have like an apostrophe between the I and the D as well. Mobile devices will very often like they'll auto correct it. So like if you type this, then mobile devices will typically autocorrect it to that. You don't want that. You need to get rid of that. This is fine, but you don't want the apostrophe. Kamikaze, I don't even know what you're saying, bro. Just want to know what you think of this for CPC? Yeah, sure. Okay. This is good. This is good. This is pretty good. Obviously not quite so ideal. Ember lost a lot of value because it takes a lot longer than Revoker does to get through shields. Graviton as well. It's not super great. Same with EM Rifle. Should be pretty good though. I mean, like, you could definitely use EM Rifle. It's not unusable. If you keep your distance and make sure that you're playing at range, you can make it really, really annoying for anyone to try to get to you. In terms of the Bastion, I have to see what level these are. 2, 1, 2. Okay. Very nice, though. I wouldn't have bothered with a legendary canopy, and I'm starting to think that a legendary Galvanical is actually not worth it either. Like, I think the epics will actually be fine, because you just don't take a lot of damage from those like, other places to really justify it. These two are your main ones that you want to get something better for, if possible. You could definitely keep this build if you wanted to. Range, yeah. Having a sniper is not terrible. It's not going to be like you're not really going to find any snipers in like competitive hangars anymore, but it can still be very usable. The Graviton Beam, though, kind of just sucks, which is sad. If you have a minigun, I would replace it with that. If you don't, then, like, honestly, Nade Launcher is pretty solid. Oh, this is good, though. I mean, like, you could put the Revokers on Surge and just make, like, an, absolutely disgusting build with that. But I don't think it's really necessary. Using Revoker on Seeker and then the Stormwreck on Surge is also, like, very, very good. Keladosia, hello. Acoin giveaway finished? No. I literally just started. It's gonna go for about 2 hours. And then what's gonna happen is I'm gonna stop the stream. And then we're gonna take like a 30-minute break, maybe an hour. And then I'm gonna start a new stream and pick the winner during that stream. Because the way that I choose the winner is from a bot that a friend set up for me. But you need to wait until like the YouTube like replay, like the chat replay has processed, right? Which just takes some time, obviously. And that's also the thing that I use for like, that's also the reason that I need the keyword, right? Oh my god, this guy. There we go. Thank you. He says, what should I run on my Panther? I don't want to buy a new pilot. I was going the sniper EM rifle route before mods, but now I have on Orion. Fair enough. Assaultant missile. Missile rack probably won't do bad. They suffer a bit from mods, but like if you're using it on a heavy mech, like if I use double 16s, then it typically actually works pretty well. So I would say that you could probably do a missile rack build on your Panther if you wanted to. The alternative is like going for an assault weapon, which I don't think any of them are actually available except for Carbine, and you already have over 24 energy, so there's no point in doing Carbine, plus Carbine's terrible. Actually, you should definitely be using 2 miniguns. Because you can, you have this duplicated, you should definitely be using 2 of them on Panther. And then use like the fusion and like fusion cannon plus Ember on Aegis. Just as like a placeholder. Obviously it's not gonna stay that way, but like it's not a great build. But double minigun on Panther would probably be better than this build right here. Especially seeing as how you have the ability to use 2 of them, but you're only using 1. Yeah, it's probably a good quick solution. Long term, honestly, you might want to just get a different weapon. Because, like I said, missile racks are usable, but they're not super practical. Nade launcher is kind of a better option, but you'd have to get a different pilot for that. RuFFles isn't gonna bother scrolling the chat for your ID. If you don't put the ID in the same message as your question, he's gonna ignore you. Correct. The chat scrolls by. I grab from what I see, obviously. So if I don't answer your question, if I have a hard time wording this because every time I say this, people start spamming the crap out of everything. So I'm gonna word it like this: if you ask me a question, and then I proceed to ignore your question and go with someone else's question, feel free to put your question in again. Ask it again. Eventually, I will get to you. Unless there's just like way too many people, then maybe I won't. There's no guarantee, obviously. But yeah, I have no problem with you asking your question multiple times. I just don't want you spamming your ID like over and over and over and over again, because it's kind of no point. It doesn't increase your chances at all, by the way. If the bot that I'll be using to collect IDs, if it sees the same ID, it's going to get rid of it. So if you log into a different YouTube account and submit the same ID, it's still only going to count one of them. If you submit 2 different IDs from the same YouTube account, it's going to count the last one that you sent. So if you're trying to enter an alt or something, then your alt is the only one that's going to be entered. It's not going to enter anything else. So that's the way that works. So spamming doesn't give you extra chances. But in terms of the questions, feel free to ask again if I didn't answer it the first time. RuFFles, can you try Cryo with Orion? I tried it, and I did not enjoy it at all. I tried Cryo 16s on Solus and actually found it pretty decent. But for whatever reason, on Orion, it kind of sucked. Okay, would you duel Revoker 16 for Surgeon Nomad with Ember 8? I have Stormrack. Hold on. I have Stormrack 12 that I can duel for Surge, but I don't have another great weapon for Aegis. I do have Nade 10 and 12, no Barrage Pilot. Okay. This is, yeah, I mean, this is a good Aegis build. And obviously the best Surge build is double Revokers. So doing a Revoker 16 plus Ember Gun 8, which technically has more DPS than double Revokers, by the way, is a very solid combination. Yeah, I would recommend probably going for that. As opposed to investing further into the Ember Guns, though I have seen Ember Guns do pretty well. I would imagine... What's that, 16? I've seen Embers on Eclipse do rather well, but Minigun Eclipse is kind of better. Yeah, I mean, like in free-for-all, you might end up like bringing your Embers back. Just, you know, really solid brawler weapon. But generally speaking, I would say, yeah, kind of keep these as they are, like both close quarters. In fact, oh, you have the Revoker built for Surge. I was about to say, you should probably make the Revoker for Surge specifically and then put the Ember on Nomad. Because the overheat does actually increase your ability damage. So that's nice. And then this is good. Keep that as it is. If you could only use one between Stormrack and Revoker, which one would you choose? That depends on... No, I mean, not really. You'd probably have to go with Revoker. If it's a matter of, like, you're trying to be as competitive as possible. Yeah, you kind of have to go with Revoker. Because, like, in 2v2 and free-for-all, it's kind of the same, where it's like you want mostly close quarters builds. In 5v5, there is an argument that could be made kind of for the same thing. CPC is really the only one where it's like you stand more benefit to kind of keep your distance because you're trying to protect certain areas of the map. But even that is very much dominated by Revoker Scouts. Citrus, let me see. Debating between 3 close quarters builds with Seeker or 2 close quarters builds. Panther with Stormrack or Minigun. Is it too risky? Limited to have 3 Revoker builds before I burn 30,000 Acoins to max out the max. Okay. If you have not seen, it was uploaded earlier today. If you have not seen the Content Crusaders versus Legion MAAT match, the Panthers were really, really good on their team. They actually, multiple players on their team had, and we lost to this team, by the way, I should say. Multiple players on their team had Stormrack Panthers, and they worked incredibly. Obviously, they had the two, you know, the very classic Revoker Surge, Revoker Nomad. Well, I mean, that team did. I don't think that team specifically had it. They had a couple of Revoker Surges, but the Nomads, I think, mostly had Embers, but that was just because they didn't have access to more Revokers. But Revoker Nomad's definitely better. In terms of the Eclipse, Minigun Eclipse is very popular. You can break mods from a relative distance, and if you have well-leveled mods, especially like in certain maps, a Minigun Eclipse is kind of incredibly difficult to deal with. There's not a whole lot you can do against it, especially if it has like the high ground, right? Because kind of the only thing you can do is try try to missile it, right? Break the mods and, you know, use radius type weapons, but it's, you know, it's very difficult if it has the high ground. This is a good build. I wouldn't bother changing that. But yeah, Revoker, Minigun, Stormwreck, I would say is probably the best option. You could do Seeker. Oh, nice. The Ruffler. Hello. Hi. Thank you, sir. Yeah, you could do Seeker, but like Seeker's losing a bit of relevance these days, to be honest. If you were gonna put Seeker in place of anything, maybe even the Aegis, to be honest. Aegis or Eclipse, depending. Night Flame. Trying to replace my 5-star Frag Surge. But should I get Revoker 10 or Revoker 8 for it? Okay. Well, you have 18 energy, so like, let's say you got 8. If you got Revoker 8, you wouldn't even be using the full energy. I would personally recommend that you get the higher energy Revokers. So, like 12 or 16. And the reason is because you can pair those with a random Ember Gun of some low energy capacity with something that's like you have right now. So if you had a Revoker 12, you could pair it with an Ember Gun 6, and you'd be kind of chilling. You do have Ember Gun 6s. And yeah, and then, so that would be very good. If you don't particularly want to get Revoker, which is very understandable, honestly, nades are not a bad choice. I would go with nades. But yeah, personally, I'd say go for the heavier Revokers, just so that, because you don't have to get multiple. Like I said, you can pair it with an Ember Gun at least for a while until you like have it maxed or have it where you want it to be. Even the 10 would be better than the 8. If you could rank the tier 9 mechs, who would be your least favorite? Aren't there like 3 tier 9 mechs? Seeker, Blockhorn, and Mimicker, correct? Am I missing one? My least favorite would be Blockhorn. And the reason that it's my least favorite is because when it came out, it was completely bugged and unusable, and it really killed a lot of the interest that I had for it. Otherwise, all of them are pretty fine. Mimicker might be my favorite at this point. What should I get next? Probably will take Killshot next. Need some movement. Okay. It's probably a good idea. Usually, getting Killshot is a very good choice. Yeah. The Zephyr and the Sentinel, neither of those are probably doing very well. The Guardian probably isn't doing very well either. So you have Sentinel, which means you're in tier 6. You would probably want to get kill shot first and replace whichever mech you think is the weakest. Like, maybe it's the Zephyr, maybe it's the Stalker, maybe it's the Guardian, doesn't really matter. The kill shot would probably do best with some type of like burst damage weapon, so like the Ember 6s. It should start with 16 energy, so maybe even an Ember 6 and Cryo Launcher 10. It's a weird combination, but it could work. Yeah, this as well. This has more damage, so probably that build is slightly better. And then you could just like put this build onto Guardian if you end up, replacing the Zephyr. But then after that, I would get Panther. You could go further and get Orion as well. Like, all three of those mechs are really solid. Orion would be particularly good with the EM rifles. But if you don't feel like you need that, then you could go ahead and do and get other stuff. Specifically stuff that's like, weapons that only cost credits or something like that, just so you can kind of get through as cheap as possible. Red Jive, hello. AL Akmar, hey RuFFles, please check my ID, dude. You never checked my ID. Well, yeah, it's because you didn't say anything. You just put your ID in. I'm not gonna check anything unless you say something specific. I mean, like the people I've been responding to. Like, this guy was saying, like, what mechs should I get next based on what he already has, right? Somebody else was asking if they should double down on Revokers or triple down on Revokers, or like what builds should they put on different mechs. Like, I'm not here to rate hangars. I'm not here to just like, oh, you get, 5 out of 6 stars, good job, type of thing. I'm here to like actually review them. You're looking for advice. I will give you advice if I can. Obviously, I probably won't get to everybody. What weapons do I put on a 20 energy cap Scorpius? Okay, probably something in the way of like, I was gonna say something in the way of like a javelin rack type thing. Definitely not like a minigun or a sustained fire weapon or like disruptor or a sniper even. The nades might be good. These are the same rank, but Redux is a slightly higher level. So these have the same HP, essentially. Well, I mean, the pilots mean that they have that this one has less, and because it's a lower level, but generally these two mechs have the same HP. But this Scorpius is much faster, and I almost feel like that makes it kind of better to use with nades, which is a somewhat decent brawling weapon. So, like, if you don't think that this is working very well, try just swapping these two builds and see how it goes. I would bet that it works at least slightly better. Otherwise, like, yeah, you got 6 energy weapons on it. You're filling 12 of your 16 energy on Orion. You're filling, well, you're doing 16 of 16 on that. And you're doing 20 of 20 on that, so that's fine. But yeah, you're kind of just probably looking at getting a couple more weapons. The Disruptor 10 is... Wait, Disruptor 10 is Acoin's... No, it was the 6, 12, and 16 that were for credits for Disruptors. That's right. Yeah. Elemental, I'm not asking for rate. Should I replace Lacewing with Surge? As in, you don't want me to look at your hangar, or I assume you. I'm gonna have to look at your hangar if I want to know if that's a good idea. I mean, Surge is kind of the strongest mech at this point. So having a Surge in general is very, very good idea. But also Lacewing is very good. Which of these do I think is the least useful? Possibly even Solus. I would almost say replace the Solus with Surge rather than the Lacewing, because Lacewing's pretty good. Like, it's the sort of thing that me and my team have come to almost rely on a reasonable amount in our competitive matches. So it's a very good idea to have it, especially on some maps. It can just be broken. It's a good tank. Wouldn't necessarily say it's the greatest build, but it's a good tank. This is a good build. This is fine, yeah. Probably replace the Solus. Nades or chain gun on Onyx? Nades for sure, because they get their damage out faster. Onyx is not tanky. Sphere, hello. Why can't my ID be displayed on that display? What? As in, why can't I check your ID? I don't know, because you probably didn't ask a good question. And if you did, like I said before, don't spam it. If you ask a question and I choose someone else's question to answer, feel free to ask your question again. It's perfectly fine. But don't spam your question until I answer it, because if you start spamming it, I will time you out. All of your messages will be removed, and you probably won't. Your ID probably won't show up when I choose the winners for the giveaway. So you'll just be screwed. So don't spam, please. It's crazy that in one update the max speed doubled and one of the best weapons became one of the worst. I mean, kind of yes and kind of no. EMFs are still very usable. They're just not very ideal. That's a lot of updates, though. Like, if you think about it, the Great Update made Shotgun... Like, Shotgun 8s back in the day, before the Great Update, were, like, the pinnacle of meta, essentially. They were so strong. I wouldn't necessarily say they were meta. I think technically Arctorn was more meta back then. But they were really strong is what I'm trying to say. And but now they're just garbage. And then, you know, a lot of other things kind of are on the same... By the same token, essentially. RuFFles, bro, why are you not checking some IDs, including me? I also asked a question. Well, because I haven't gotten to it yet, and I'm answering random questions like this instead of being able to actually answer questions. Just because you put it in doesn't mean I have to. Okay, let's say there are at least 5 people who are thinking the exact same thing as you. All 5 people do the exact same thing as you, which is put in a question. I cannot look at all 5 of you at the same time, meaning that 4 of you will not be chosen. What are you going to do at that point? Are you going to complain that you weren't the one that was chosen? That doesn't make logical sense. I couldn't physically do all 5 of you at the same time. This is a hypothetical scenario. In reality, it's more like 10, possibly 20. Kamo, how should I change up this hangar? I have Nomad I want to slot in, but I can't decide what to replace or switch up for it. Okay. Generally, I mean, this is not a great build, unfortunately. Eclipse is pretty decent, but this isn't a great Eclipse build. You could replace this with Nomad, but I would not put the graviton beams on it. If you have like nade launcher 12s, those are actually really solid. Like nades are pretty dang strong after the mods update. And you could put the nades on Nomad, or you could put the embers on Nomad and put the nades on Surge. The Surge EMP technically gives you slightly more time to unload your nades on somebody, so it's probably better to put the nades on Surge. But it's kind of however you want to do it. If you don't have nades, then honestly, you should probably get them. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about it. Like, there's other weapons that would work, but like they're all equal. Like they're all just as accessible as nade launcher. Like nade launcher's pretty easy to get, so I would recommend getting it at this point. It's been a very solid weapon for a very long time. Hey Rose, if a team were to spawn the same one mech for each team member, what would it be? As in a hypothetical CPC match, everybody spawns the same mech? Probably Surge. Surge or Nomad. It depends. If you wanted to spawn one mech first, probably Nomad, and then you'd save the Surge for later. If you could only choose one mech, then definitely Surge, because it's just better. I just got to tier 7. What mechs and weapons should I get? Any of the ones that cost credits. If they cost credits, it's pretty good deal. So it's like Brick House, Graviton 10, Chain Gun 10. I'm trying to think of others that cost credits. I think those are the only 3 that I know of at the moment. Azurite, hello. So I put nades on my Scorpius, and then I put Disc Launcher 12 and 8 on my Redox. Is that good, or do I use a different weapon? I mean, Redox is very squishy. It's not fast at all, so like it's kind of not able to do a whole lot, which is why I suggested to probably just use like Javelin Rack or something similar. But Disc Launcher's pretty decent as well. You don't have to expose yourself in order to use it. It's not bad. Some people need to chill. I must disagree with your comment though. Eclipse with Grabs is lethal. It probably very much depends on what stage of the game you're in. Like, I could not use a maxed Eclipse with Graviton 12s against the kind of bots and players that I face. All of them have like freaking Galvanic Hull along with like multi-layered shield mods, which just take way too long for Graviton to get past. So it's just not even worth it. Right. Which mech should I rank up next or wait to unlock other mechs? Chungus. Surge is a good one to rank up, but you kind of already have a good build for it. There's not really much reason to do that. The Guardian I would pass on. The Panther's probably fine as it is for now. I would honestly, you might be interested in getting an Aegis or something. Because You don't have any tanks. The tankiest thing you have here is a brick house. A brick house isn't a tank. And also, this build is not very good. I would put this on Orion, actually, because the shield piercing makes it pretty decent. Makes the EM rifles pretty decent. But yeah, you're probably gonna want to get like an Aegis or some kind of good tank. And by good tank, I mean any tank that is not Ares, Juggernaut, Sentinel. I think those are all of them, yeah. So Aegis, Bastion, Vortex, and Blockhorn are all pretty solid. Vortex being the best, Aegis being the second best. Your question didn't have the ID in it. Yeah, if your question doesn't have the ID in it, how am I supposed to know what hangar to look at? Night Flame. Do I think they will add Titans like in War Robots? I saw that you asked that question in a Dream Hangers comment. I didn't respond to it, but no, I don't think that they will. I think that they're very conscious about what War Robots does and they don't want to copy it. They've explicitly said that they are never going to add any more than 2 weapons. Like they're not going to make mechs with 3 or 4 like actual legitimate weapon slots because War Robots does that and they don't want to be like War Robots. That's literally the reason. Please give advice for butter combo. What? I'm gonna need clarification on that. Procrastinate. What do I replace Panther with? These are really good. This is really good. This is pretty good. I don't know that you necessarily need to replace the Panther. I think you just need better weapons on it. A single Graviton Beam is always bad. Like, even back when Graviton Beam was a really good weapon, a single one would never get you anywhere because it just takes way too long for the implosion to build up. So, I think you just kind of just need a better build. What I would do is I would put the Graviton 10 on Blockhorn. Yeah, it has 20. So that way you have 2 weapons that basically work the same way, which is, you press the trigger and you hold down the trigger for a very long amount of time and deal a lot of damage. And then you could put the disc launcher on Panther with the nade launcher. Possibly. That probably wouldn't be like super great. But you could probably get like nade launcher 12 or 16 and put that on here. So you'd have like double nades. I think, how else would you want to do that? Technically, you could do it the other way around too, because Panther has a longer shield duration, so that kind of just makes more sense. And put the minigun into Graviton both on Panther. But then your Blockhorn ends up being kind of weak. But it has a damage boosting ability, so it'd probably be fine. And nade launcher is a pretty decent brawling weapon. But yeah, and it's mostly just like you don't have a lot of great weapons available to you at the moment. And the weapons that you do have are like you have to get them to rank 6 in order to use 2 of them, so you're kind of just in an inconvenient spot, really. Increase your volume. Is my volume low, or does this guy just need to turn up his YouTube volume? Which weapon is best for maxed Aegis? Probably Stormrack. I'm willing to bet that that was just a question to get me to look at your hangar, though, and you don't actually have a maxed Aegis. Yeah, no, I called that. Yeah, I mean, like, there's not much to say about this. It is a hangar, yeah. I wouldn't use Redeemer with EM rifle. This build might be decent. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. This is pretty good. I'd use like maybe nades on Gatecrash or something with good burst damage. And then the Redeemer, I don't even know. I'll probably replace it with a tank, to be honest. I don't think you even need it there. You're almost 211. That's the only reason that I saw that one through. Should I go? Should I go for Disruptor next? Probably not. It's kind of sad because like they were really good when they first got added to the Gear Hub, but then the mods update kind of made them really bad. And now if you're slightly lower SP and you're not fighting a bunch of you're not fighting a bunch of players or bots with like high level mods, then it's probably fine. But like someone like myself, it's not easy to use disruptors. I think the only way that I could get them to be like actually kind of pretty decent was if I used the double 16 while the 20% damage modifier was active. So, you know, make of that what you will. Nades are much better than Disruptor. Missile Rack, probably also better than Disruptor. If you wanted to get it, I'd say maybe the nades on Bastion's not bad. I suppose you could use them on Eclipse if you wanted to get them. The 12 and 16 are for credits, so it's pretty cheap. I mean, of all of those mechs, though, Eclipse is definitely the best one to use for disruptors. Someone's spamming. Oh, well, that's unsurprising. Oh, this guy's screaming, check my hangar! No. Listen to what Nawana Name said. If I don't, like, I prefer to, well, I'm going to okay, well, I'll put it this way. I'm going to prioritize people who are, like, Argish edits here, who are, you know, like, they have something to, like, they have something for me to work with, right? They're like, after the implant system rework, I'll put discs on Guardian with Stefania Pilot and buy disruptors for Stalker, then replace my disc with pods. Any suggestions to improve my squad? So he's telling me what he wants to do, telling me and asking me if I have any suggestions. He's not just like giving me his ID and then being like, rate my hangar. Like, nah, that's not going to happen. Anybody can put those 3 words into a chat, and I'm not going to be able to cover everybody. So I'm going to prioritize the people who are going to give me like legitimate questions like that. And the reason that I do that is mostly because I know that I won't have time to cover everyone. And these are the people who ask questions like this, are the people who are more likely to actually be paying attention. Okay, so disc launcher on Guardian, that's I hate that you have a maxed rare pilot, I'm not gonna lie. You should not be ranking up your rare pilots. Disruptor for Stalker. And then you're gonna replace your disc launcher with pod guns on Guardian? Or are you gonna replace... You're gonna put pod guns on your Aegis? I don't necessarily think pod gun Aegis is particularly good. Pod gun Guardian might be decent. You could probably put like nades on Aegis, and that would be a good build. Honestly, you don't have any type of speed in here, so if you play CPC at all, then you probably should get like kill shot or surge. You are at very least in tier 6, so you should have access to kill shot, so I would recommend getting it. And then putting the ember guns on it, obviously. And then this is probably fine. The Stalker, I can't imagine you're gonna get like a bunch of long-term use out of. You already ranked it up once, yeesh. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put any more into Stalker. Guardian could be useful, but like, I don't know about the Stalker, to be honest. I would say don't worry about it. Unless it's the sort of thing that you really want to continue using. Actually, I mean, maybe it is. Fair enough. If so, but yeah, I'd say get like kill shot in here. Replace either Stalker or what's its face, Sentinel. If you're gonna get pod guns, it's probably best used on Guardian or Stalker if you want to keep the Stalker. The Stalker would actually be not that bad. And then like nades on Aegis because nades are a good brawling weapon. RuFFles serious question: are people without the right pilot for their weapons cooked? According to one of the community managers on Discord, you can still use implants on the wrong pilot, it just won't give you the damage bonus. Which, I mean, it's exactly the opposite of what the in-game news says, so I don't really know which one to believe, to be honest. I'm more inclined to believe the community manager on Discord because he said it after the announcement was made. So it was more of like an amendment to the announcement and not the announcement itself. So basically it's like an update. It's like a for clarification. And that's more likely to be correct than the initial statement is. But yeah, so if that's the case, then like no, not really cooked, but kind of, because you're going to be losing a lot of damage. I'm going to put you in timeout for 30 minutes for spamming your ID. Please don't do that. Okay. This guy says, I'm beginner. What should I do to my mechs and pilots? Okay. Oh, he got the cryo javelins. Nice. I'm assuming you got this from the promo code. They gave you the rank 2 one. That's good. This is a good build. A lot of close quarters. Like every single one of your builds has a fragment gun, which means none of your builds have any type of range, except for your kill shot. Which, if I might add, if there's one mech that is best with close quarters weapons, it's going to be the mechs that are the fastest, the ones that have the dash specifically. You can dash in, unload ember guns. The overheat from the ember gun actually increases the damage from your ability as well. So you can like just dash out of nowhere and absolutely smoke somebody in an instant. I know that the The early game playstyle is very, it's very encouraging of this type of build. I'll put it that way. But if you can figure out what you're doing, a close quarters dash mech will always outperform one of these like kind of more removed. This is what I call a noob setup, right? Which you did say you are a new player, but my advice is to put close quarters on this dash mech and get used to that because it is better. The Arachnos, swap that with almost anything. No, I mean, like, what do you have next? You should get access to... I mean, you probably already have access to Stalker, but that's whatever. I wouldn't recommend getting Tengu or Shadow or Stalker, really. What's in tier 5? Aegis? Yeah. So what you want... Tier 5 here, this mech, Aegis. It is the earliest meta mech that anyone gets access to. It does cost Acoins. It's like 3,000 Acoins. But it's a top 10 mech, and you get access to it really early. I highly recommend everybody get it. All the rest of the mechs before that, not really worth using. I mean, some people use Guardian long term, but like not, like barely anyone. Killshot ultimately gets replaced with Nomad or Surge. Panther is a good one. It's the next meta one that you get access to, but Aegis is what I would go for. Spooter not good. Yeah, I mean it's good when you get it. So like I don't blame him for using it. He probably doesn't have anything better. When is the free-to-play Hangar vid coming out, if it ever is? Oh, the free-to-play account that I made? Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be... Bro, okay, look. At this point, it would be a crime for me to go back to that account, because I missed 2, possibly 3 legendary pilots that you could get all of the tokens for if you just played the game often enough, and I just didn't do it. So I missed a bunch of legendary pilots. I missed several weapon playoffs, I'm sure. I missed most importantly, I missed the mod derby event. The derby event that gave you a bunch of mod parts. I missed that, and like at this point, it would be more convenient for me to just start a new account entirely. Which, like, am I gonna do that? Probably not. Anyways, guys, should I rank up my Nade 12 and Missile Rack 12, or should I rank up my Panther or Guardian? I need good firepower. Any suggestions? Okay. Nade 12 is probably better than Missile Rack 12. I think it has better DPS. Missile Rack has slightly better burst DPS, I believe, but not by that much. And Nade Launcher doesn't force you to unload your entire magazine in one go. So it's just a lot more convenient. Plus, it has a pretty short reload time, honestly, all things considered. So between the two, I'd definitely go with Nade Launcher first. And yeah, this is kind of unfortunate. I would assume that you don't have access to Well, now Sentinel's in tier 6. So yeah, okay, so you should probably replace Zephyr with Killshot when you can. That'll do you a lot of good. If you can put the missile racks on Killshot, that would probably be even better. Replace the Sentinel with Aegis if you can. But otherwise, Nade Launcher 12. You can buy Nade Launcher 10 for credits. You don't even have to duplicate the 12, because that's a lot of Acoins to duplicate the 12. So you could just use a 12 and a 10. Not that you have any mechs with 24 energy anyway, but yeah. Yeah, I'd say you have some decent firepower. These two builds have good firepower. Well, decent firepower anyway. Like Ember 8s is not like the best, but it's pretty good. The problem is like they're not on mechs that like are able to make good use out of that firepower. But the unfortunate thing is you don't really have any mechs that can make good use of that firepower. Like you could put the embers on anything, and it wouldn't really work any better. You could put the missile racks on Panther, and it might work slightly better, but you know, you're doing the best that you can with the Grav 10s. So, and I'm sure the Grav 10s work pretty well. You had Aegis for probably 8 months or so, stuck on 20 energy, never get blueprints? Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, some things you just get like really unlucky. I've gotten really lucky with some things and then really unlucky with other things, and that's why when something new comes out, or when a new mech comes out, I should say, I don't even bother looking for blueprints in crates. I literally just spend the Acoins for it, because I know that like there's no chance I'm gonna get them for free. Like it's gonna take me like 6 months at least if I'm lucky, but probably I'm gonna get unlucky and it's gonna take me like a year. So I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Planning on getting Aegis to replace Arachnos, and should I get Epic Pilot first or Legendary Pilot first with credits? I will get Nade and Cryo 10 for Panther. Okay. So the Aegis to replace Arachnos, that's a good idea. You don't want Helix Rack on it though. I would put the Ember 8 on Kill Shot probably. And then the Disc Launcher on Zephyr. Actually, no, I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I would put the Ember 8 on Killshot, the Helix on Guardian, and then the Disc Launchers on Aegis. Disc Launcher Aegis is actually really good. Like, even though Disc Launchers got nerfed a bit, Disc Launcher Aegis is really good when you get access to it. Every, like, even when you're like 5,000 SP, people are telling me that Disc Launcher Aegis is a really solid build. So that's a good idea to go for. In terms of like Nade 10 and Cryo Nade 10, it's not a bad idea. Yeah. You could. You could maybe put that on the Zephyr, because I think what I just said kind of excludes Zephyr. Yeah. Like, you'd put the Ember on Killshot, you put the Disc Launchers on Aegis, and then you put the Helix on Guardian. And you just get rid of the long arms because there's not really any point in keeping them. But then the Zephyr wouldn't have anything. So then the Zephyr would need like Ember Gun 6s for credits, question mark. Or maybe it's not. I think it is. I feel like almost everybody ends up with Ember Gun 6 along with like a Nade Launcher 10 or something weird like that. Or maybe it's a Missile Rack 6. Yeah, I don't know. Missile Rack 6 or Ember Gun 6, whichever one's credits. Along with like a single nade launcher 10 is a build that I see a lot of people use on Zephyr. It's not good, but it's just like it's a placeholder, right? It's just kind of there. You're kind of just putting a random build on one of your worst mechs. It's Zephyr's definitely not carrying. Kito, this is my last time asking. If you don't see my content, it's unfortunate. I'm not gonna spam though. I mean, like I said, yes, you don't need to spam. I definitely don't want you to spam, but I don't mind if you repeat your question. Because, like, the situation that I was talking about before is like, okay, let's say like 7 different people all put in a question. I can only answer one of them at a time, which means that the chat's scrolling by pretty much constantly. So by the time I'm done with it, I'd have to scroll way up if I wanted to see your question again. So I'm not going to see it. Like after that, it's just gone. And so at that point, either you put your question back in or it just never gets answered. So it's just kind of the way that it is. What was your question? Should I replace Carbine with Disc Launcher on my Panther? Possibly. I'm only considering Disc Launchers because it's been nerfed. You're only considering it because it's been nerfed? As in you want a weapon that's weaker? Also, what scout should I replace Killshot with? No Surge. I'm thinking about Lacewing. Lacewing is really good. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun than Surge. But a dash mech is very helpful. In terms of the Panther, Disc Launcher, I don't really know. I don't think that would work super well. I'm trying to think of like weapons that are available for credits or Acoins. Probably minigun. I mean, minigun's basically just carbine on steroids. And it's a lot better. And it costs the same as Disc Launcher 12s. or like if you wanted to get the 16. It costs the same as Disc Launcher, but it's just kind of just better. And it's a lot more satisfying to use, personally. Otherwise, yeah, not too bad. Could maybe replace the Orion with the Lacewing, to be honest. I can't imagine a Disruptor Orion would do you that good. But maybe. This guy. Bro, you're like spamming your ID. Please don't do that. Yeah, when I see somebody spamming, then I time them out for 30 minutes. Here's the thing. When I time someone out, YouTube automatically deletes all of your previous messages. Which means that you're not, like, your ID won't be entered into the giveaway until your timeout session is over, and then you can put it in again. But if you spam again, then I'm just going to time you out again. So basically what I'm saying is if you spam, there's a very good chance that you're not going to even have a chance. please, I'm seating for 1 hour now. I mean, what do you just okay? Okay. So, is there anything specific that you want to say? Because I swear to goodness, every time I do this, if I just check someone's hangar, someone's like, "Well, rate my hangar." They don't give me any context. They don't have anything for me. They're just like, I want you to look at my hangar just for the sake of looking at it. And then I look at it, and then I move on to the next one, and then like 2 minutes later, I see you talking about, oh no, I know, I usually don't use this one thing that was in my hangar. I usually use this other. It's like, okay, how was I supposed to know that? Like, this is why you give me context first. So if you want me to check your hangar, if you want me to give advice on something, then I need to know what you're like. I need to know what you're having problems with. Essentially, that makes it a lot easier for me. Which mech in tier 6 should I get first? Probably kill shot. For almost everyone, they're in the same situation, which is that they have no dash mechs because the only dash mech prior to kill shot is slingshot, and that's obviously crap. And the only other scout that you get access to that's even somewhat good is Redeemer, and Redeemer's not a beacon running scout. It's kind of just it's the type of scout that you'll run like Helix Rack on or something like that. Like you're not running beacons with it, is what I'm saying. So yeah, and that looks to be the situation that you're in. This would have been better off as an Aegis. I would replace the Ares with a kill shot. You could also, I mean, Orion as well as Panther are both really good as well. Also Aegis. Highly recommend Aegis. But yeah, if you're looking for one specific mech to get first from tier 6, it's definitely a kill shot. Especially if you don't have any fast mechs. Do you consider mods in the hangar reviews? I mean, I don't really consider what mods people have equipped. I mean, sort of. I saw one guy who had he's fully stacked out his Nomad. He had like a bunch of level 1 legendary mods. And I was like, well, arguably the epic canopy is more worthwhile than legendary. Like the legendary is kind of like it's not a lot of point. You may as well just get the epic, save yourself some resources. Kind of the same thing goes with Galvanic, to be honest. Because both of those are mods that you half the time won't even use at all during a battle. So buying the legendary isn't necessarily it's not necessary. I do consider what is like particularly good or particularly bad against mods, but a lot of the hangars that I end up checking are like 3,000-4,000 SP. So they're running into enemies with like extremely minimal mods as is. So it's not something that I have to like consider a whole lot, but yes, I do as much as possible. Speaking of mods, 67 viewers, crazy, nice, wow. That is a bit more than usual. This guy, what mods on Aegis discs I'm free to play? Well, whether you should be using Aegis, well, I mean, you're not using Aegis discs at the moment. So, the perimeter multilayer is the cheapest one, and it's also just the best one for most mechs. And this includes Aegis. The reason is because it's the one that takes the longest for high damage close quarters weapons to get through. And if you're an Aegis, your main threat is some dash mech with a high damage close quarters weapon. So long as you know how to play your Aegis correctly. So yeah, generally, and by that I mean the legendary. The legendary perimeter multi-layer is pretty cheap. I would not bother getting the epic. It's not worth it. It's kind of just a waste. By the way, everybody who's not aware, like, please check the pinned comment. There is technically a keyword to enter the giveaway. Some people, I'm seeing most people are doing it correctly, but I'm seeing some people aren't. What do I do with my Acoins? Mechs, weapons, pilots, or rank up? What tier are you in? It looks like you're probably in tier 5, maybe 6. You don't have any tank. Honestly, I'd get Aegis. Normally, I'd recommend like Killshot or some fast mech because most people don't have a fast mech early on, but you have 2 really good ones. I mean, technically 3. You don't really need the Redeemer. The Redeemer's entirely redundant, to be honest. I would replace that with something tanky, Aegis being the most accessible and, you know, just like one of the best value for money type thing that you can get. So I would go with that. In terms of weapons, obviously you're not using the best weapons at the moment. 16 and you're only using 12. But honestly, there's a lot more like free-to-play weapon options than there are like good mech options. So you could use like a nade launcher. Yeah, nade 10. I don't think the 6 is. No, the 6 is Acoin, so that's not worth it. Trying to think, what would you put on a 16 energy Aegis? I mean, Disc Launcher is pretty good, I hear, at this SP. Disc Launcher Aegis is very, very solid. And then you could put the Embers on Surge if you wanted to. And that would be pretty good as well. And then the Nomad would kind of suffer. I kind of forget, like, what you even... Like, what even is there? I swear, I always forget what even exists. So, like... Tier 4, Tier 5, okay. Fragment Gun 12 is probably a good choice. None of the legendaries are really worth it, except for like maybe Disc Launcher. Nade 10's good. That's credits. I know that much. Frag 12 should be credits as well. Fusion Cannon 10 might be. If you could do like Fusion Cannon 10 and 6, that like it could be like a placeholder build for a little while. Otherwise, yeah, it's like, I don't know. Otherwise, it's like a bunch of Acoins to spend on an 8 energy epic weapon, which like is not really worth doing. So I'd go with something that's, I'd just try to make like a placeholder build until you can get access to something better. want to know what combo should I use further. That's not a question. You very much misunderstand what I'm looking for, but it's fine. Whatever. I swear to goodness, if you end up not seeing this, then and he's tanking, of course. Okay, whatever. This, you have like a pseudo tank. You have Brick House, but you don't have Aegis. Like Aegis is just way better. Decent mods on Surge. This is pretty good. This isn't too bad. This isn't too bad. This is pretty good. I'd like just try to get a better tank. And probably you could replace Redeemer with something like more damage focused, like Panther. That would probably be a good idea. And then replace Brickhouse with something that's more defense focused, like Aegis. Otherwise, pretty solid. Planning to invest in more implants once the implant market is up. Same. I'm very curious as to what that implant market looks like, to be honest. Also, I'm planning on replacing arcs with revokers. Which implants should I prioritize? In terms of revokers, damage. Damage is the only one you need. Revoker only has 2 implants, it's damage and range. The range is not really necessary at all, especially if you're using it on dash mechs, which most people are. What a lot of people do, and what I would probably recommend, is a single revoker damage on Surge, and then 3 ability implants, so like cooldown, duration, and dash distance. Makes for an absolutely disgusting combo. That was pretty good. It's kind of a weird build here, but... Yusuf, yes. If I don't answer your question, feel free to ask it again. Just don't like. I'm hesitant to say that because I know when I say that, I know that you understand what I mean, but like there's always these people who interpret that as spam your question until I answer it, which is absolutely not what I mean. What I mean is ask your question once. If I choose to go with someone else's question, then by the time I'm done answering their question, you can ask yours again so that I'll see it again, because the chat scrolls by and your question's just gone by the time I'm done with the last one, okay? Like, I'm not scrolling up. I don't know if anybody thinks I'm scrolling up to see what the past questions were. Nah, I could not. I would be, like, literally... It's been an hour and 20 minutes. I would be an hour behind chat at this point. If I were doing that, it'd be an hour behind chat. So I just can't. I think I used to do that at one point, but it's just like it got to such a point where it was just like I can't do this anymore. Spam my question till you answer it. Got it. Yeah. He understands the assignment. Second Hangar, should I replace Panther with Aegis or Nomad? Ooh. What should I replace on them? Options are Disruptors, Disc Launchers, EMs, Rails, Pod Guns, or switch a weapon from one of the other mechs. Of all of those weapons, Pod Gun is probably the best. You want to get rid of the Panther and replace it with either Aegis or Nomad. Okay. Oh, you do. I was about to say, like, a lot of people who are... Most people who are like dedicated to keeping their Guardian around late game most of the time they have the implant, and that's the reason, which is fair enough. I mean, you could replace the Eclipse with Nomad, to be honest, and that might be pretty. That might be pretty good, to be honest. Aegis at this point is probably better than Bastion. If you want to replace the Bastion with Aegis as well, that's not a bad idea. I will say that I don't think Aegis with any of those weapons that you listed would be very good. If you wanted to replace it with, if you wanted to replace the Panther with an Aegis or a Nomad, really, I would put. I think my solution, my answer would be the same. So whether it's an Aegis or a Nomad doesn't really matter. I would put the nade launchers on that, and then put the pod guns on Eclipse. Pod gun Eclipse is actually pretty solid. And the nade launchers are a bit more of a brawling weapon. So yeah, I would say that. But you, again, like, you could replace the Eclipse with Nomad, you could replace the Bastion with the Aegis. Personally, I don't think either of them are the best. I've been seeing a lot more value out of Panther lately. Especially with like all these Revokers flying around. Revokers can chew an Aegis Dome to shreds in a matter of like 3 seconds, but it can't do anything to a Panther barrier, right? And then Bastion, the EMP time from Bastion is not long enough to kill most things anymore, which really stole a lot of Bastion's glory. So if you wanted to put Aegis on there instead, that would be very understandable. But otherwise, yeah, you know, kind of do it however. I would definitely understand that you want to get rid of a Disruptor Panther, because that doesn't sound like it would be very good. RuFFles, do you think my disc launchers with Nomad are good in my hangar? I don't know what your hangar looks like, so I have no idea. If you're around like 5 KSP, then probably it's pretty good. After that SP, roughly that SP is when disc launchers start to fall off. Most of my pilots are mismatched, so as a free-to-play, should I invest on getting matching weapons or matching pilots? Pilots are generally cheaper. Instead of buying a legendary weapon for like 7,000 Acoins, you can buy a legendary pilot for 3. Instead of buying an epic weapon for 3,000 Acoins, you can buy an epic pilot for like 1.5. So, in like terms of cost, it's pretty much always cheaper to get different pilots. But you then need the pilot marks, of course. Out of my 5 mechs, which ones should I invest in long term? Okay, you're in tier 7. Thank you. The Aegis is good. The Surge is good. The rest can probably go. You could bring the Orion long term if you wanted to, but you'd need a better weapon for it for sure. Okay, so you got some good mobility here. You have a good tank here. You don't really have, like, this is the extent of your DPS. Usually I recommend people have at least one build that just has like really high DPS to deal with certain things that might be causing an issue. Orion's good for DPS, but I don't know if it's necessarily going to fit that role super well with disc launchers. Redeemer is kind of just an extra at this point. I don't think you need it. Missile rack. Okay, Ember gun's good. Let me look at. This is a barrage pilot. Nade launchers are incredibly effective. probably better than chain gun. So I actually would, in this case, get nades instead of getting a different pilot. I would get nade launcher. Most people don't end up using helix rack a whole lot long term, so I wouldn't bother getting a guided pilot for that. Or for disc launcher, really. A missile pilot's definitely a good idea. Even if you don't use it for missile rack, you'll want it for other weapons down the line. Missile rack's pretty good, though. This is another close quarters. Having 2 close quarters pilots is actually not a bad idea. You could put the other one on kill shot. You could put like fragment guns on kill shot, and then put the Galvin on that. Nade launchers on you with Lodestar, of course. And then, I mean, snipers. Orion is the one mech that can actually like reliably make snipers work well. And I mean, like, people use them competitively still. Like a couple of the teams that I fought. In fact, one of the teams that my team actually lost to, they had multiple EM rifle Orions in their hangars. I mean, granted, they were just like really crazy good players, but you know, what I'm saying is it's entirely usable. Sniper Orion long term. If you wanted to go with that, I would say guided weapons are probably like getting a guided pilot's probably not really worth it because you're most likely not going to use it for helix. You're probably not going to use it for disc launcher. Yeah, I wouldn't really bother. Snipers at least have value. I mean, maybe use it for helix, I suppose. That one's kind of up to you, I suppose. Putting that for frags. Getting a missile pilot's definitely a good idea, and then getting nades for that. Wasn't planning on using missile rack, but recently got the legendary radius implant. So should I invest in missile racks? I mean, as an epic weapon, they're not that bad. Especially if you don't have to deal with, like, when you're lower SP, you don't really have to deal with a lot of mods. The mods are the only things that make missile racks kind of bad, which means that it's really only a problem late game. So, like, you know, as a 4 or 5 KSP player, you're not really going to have to worry about that too much. At least not for a while. You'll hopefully eventually swap to Storm Rack, which is just, you know, basically a better missile rack and a really strong weapon. So that would be a pretty good transition as well. But even then, even with like all the mods that I have to deal with, I do find missile racks actually still pretty effective if I use them on like heavy mechs. Essentially, you know, if I stack like the heaviest missile rack variants on the heaviest mechs that I can, then they still do pretty good. They can still one-shot some things, and yeah, not too bad. RuFFles, what's better, Disc Launcher Prime or Storm Rack Prime? I assume you mean Disc Launcher when it was meta versus Storm Rack when it was the most meta, which, like, technically Revoker's more meta than Storm Rack now, so that was, like, from a little while ago. I would say Disc Launcher was more meta back then. Won't the new update make it so you can't mismatch pilots? So, one of the community managers on Discord said they made a clarifying statement, and they said, hold on, I have it. I can do Like this? No. Okay, I'm not gonna bother trying to share my screen. I'm just gonna read it. But basically, he said some clarification, additional info. Pilots will not give a bonus for weapons that don't match their innate skill. However, users have the option to put implants for the weapons that are used in an assembly, even if the weapon doesn't match the pilot's innate skill. Which essentially means if I'm using a Hemlock with a single Ember Gun 8 and a single Missile Rack 16, I know it's like build of champions, but let's say I'm using that Hemlock build, and I'm using the missile pilot. Right? It will allow me to put an Ember Gun implant. It will allow me to put Ember Gun implants on that pilot because I have an Ember Gun on the mech. However, the Ember Gun damage won't be, like, I won't get more damage from the pilot. The pilot only boosts the damage of the missile weapon. It doesn't boost the damage of the close quarters weapon. Now, that is what the community manager said. I will say that it is kind of confusing because that's basically a direct contradiction to what this says. It says that means pilots will only be able to equip implants that match their innate skill or the mech in their build. Which implies you can only use implants that match the innate skill, or implants that are like implants that match the specific mech, so like ability implants for that specific mech. But it could mean that this part right here, or the mech in their build, like that match the mech in their build, could mean basically that it you can equip implants so long as it matches one of the weapons on that mech. And maybe they just worded that poorly. But yeah, it seems very contradictory, I agree. I would say, to be safe, I would assume that you probably can't. The safe assumption is to assume that you won't be able to equip implants on the wrong pilot. I just removed some because I was worried about what might happen if I didn't. I mean, that's fine because you get the free implant removal. So like, literally the worst case scenario, you wasted like maybe 10 seconds of your time because now you're gonna have to like re-upgrade it or something. Like, it's not a big deal. I would actually recommend most people to take all of their implants off, get all of the scrap back for everything, and then upgrade what they want to upgrade on a case-by-case basis, because once it's upgraded, it's going to stay upgraded. You can't get the parts back. You can't take it off and put on a different implant and upgrade that different implant, right? So whatever you're investing in is what you're investing in. I'm planning on upgrading my Nomad's rank, then putting on Ember 8, but my Vortex says Ember 8, and it's working really well. Nomad Ember 8 is better, so what gun should I use on Vortex? I mean, Vortex could be good with a lot of things. If you normally play 2v2, then Ember Gun Vortex is pretty good, but like close quarters weapons on Vortex aren't super ideal in CPC. Trying to think of like what's a good 8 energy weapon. Or just like 16 total energy. Nade launcher's not bad, but like for whatever reason, I don't like nade launcher on Vortex. I like nade launcher as a weapon, and I love Vortex as a mech, but I just the combination of the two does not feel good to use, and I don't know what it is about it. They seem like they'd be fine together, but it just kind of just doesn't work for me. Missile weapons, maybe. Kind of just depends on what you have. I mean, if your SP is like, I'm assuming your SP is like around 5,000 at most. So if it's like between 3 and 5,000, then probably disc launchers could work pretty well as well. Disc launcher Aegis is very popular. If you're not using that, then probably disc launcher Vortex would be almost equally as good, if not better. Do you put in the same ID twice if they spam? No. What happens is all duplicate IDs get removed. And if you put in, let's say you put in, this as your ID, right? And then you that like this will be recorded. So the way that I record IDs is from a bot that was created by a friend. So a friend made a bot for me to collect IDs that have the ID colon type of prefix keyword type of thing. So automatically it will only count each ID one time. There's no double submissions. It'll get rid of duplicate IDs. But also what it will do is it'll only allow one ID per user. So if you put in this ID, right, and then you put in this ID right afterward, then this would override your last one. So this would be the one that's listed. This would be the one that comes up. And your other one would not show at all. So if anyone's trying to like put in their, their alt accounts ID or something like that, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not working. Like you don't get to submit multiple IDs. It doesn't work like that. But it also means like if you make a typo or something, if you make a mistake, then all you got to do is just type it the correct way. So long as the last way that you typed it was the correct way, then you're good to go. But I will say, for people who are spamming, like this guy, timeout for 10 minutes because we're going to be ending soon. When I time people out, YouTube basically just removes all of your comments, which means that your ID is not going to show up at all. More than likely. I don't think it will. Maybe it does, but I don't know. I don't think so. So I'm pretty sure when I run the program, if you got timed out and you didn't put your ID in after that, if the stream ended before you were done being timed out, then you're out of luck, basically. So what I'm trying to say is don't spam because you'll get timed out, and that basically just removes you from the giveaway. Should you replace Seeker with Revoker 16 with Surge? As in, use Revoker Surge instead of Revoker Seeker. I mean, probably. Okay, yeah, this one. So Revoker Surge is like the best build in the game at this point. I don't know if a single rank 3 Revoker 16 is going to be better than double Graviton 10s, especially given that your opponents probably don't have very strong mods, if any. So I'm not like totally sold on that, I think you should definitely try it. Like, try it for a couple matches and see if you like it better. There's kind of no harm in it. But otherwise, like, this build's not going to work well. This build's not going to work well. And the reason is the same thing. They're basically the same build. It's just it's a damage boosting sustained fire weapon. These are both pretty weak mechs. Even with the mods, they're both pretty weak mechs. But the weapons that you're using on them forces you to stay out in the open for a long time, which is not good. You don't want to do that. If you could... 24 energy. I mean, you could try to put the minigun 16 on the Panther and then put like an 8 energy something. I don't know what you have that's 8 energy. Maybe like fusion cannon or something. And then put the railgun on Orion. That might work better, even though the railgun's only 12 energy and you have 16 total. Basically what you want to do is you want to limit the amount of time that you're out in the open with these two mechs, because they do a lot of damage, but they can't take a lot of damage, so you are going to die very, very quickly. You also don't have any tanks, so, you know, it would be worth getting a tank. Brickhouse doesn't count, even though I wish it did. So Aegis is a good idea, probably to replace Stalker. You could try Revoker on Surge, but I don't think that alone would solve all of your problems, so... Bro, I've been trying for nearly half an hour. Please help me, give me some advice. I mean, okay, what do you want me to do? Scroll up until I find your last comment? Like... Put it in. I mean, we don't have a lot of time left. If you don't give me your ID with your question, then I'm not gonna be able to, like, I'm not gonna be able to look at your hangar. I'm not gonna know what your question is. And once again, no, I am absolutely not gonna scroll up for 10 minutes trying to find different people. I end up missing a lot of I miss a lot of messages when I do this. That's just the way that it is, but that's just because a lot of messages end up being sent. I don't have time to look at all of them. I couldn't possibly have time to look at all of them. So some of them I wound up seeing, which is unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way that it ends up being. Should I replace Aegis with Hemlock? I don't necessarily think so. I mean, if you play 2v2, then maybe. Otherwise, probably not. Aerodynamics, please stop spamming. In fact, I'm going to purposely ignore your question because you sent it like 6 times in a row. No, make that more like 8 times in a row. I'm gonna look at fizzles instead. Railguns aren't holding up solo, works for a last second kill, but struggles with mods. What's a good replacement that can manage airborne lacewing? What about temp weapons for Hemlock? 2v2. Okay, so you mostly play 2v2. The best weapon that I've found to deal with lacewing is Podgun. I don't think that there's really any other weapon that reliably hits lacewing. I mean, outside of maybe like Helix Rack, but you probably don't want to do that if you're 2v2 main. If you could get pod guns, I think they'd be pretty decent on Redeemer. This looks like a crappy build, but... what else did you say? Okay, so temporary weapons for Hemlock. Stasis on Hemlock makes no sense, really. Like, you're stunning them with the ability. There's kind of no point in applying stasis. So you want damage over everything else. If you have a single missile rack 16, that would be better. If you have a missile rack 12 and a missile rack 6, that would not be that bad. Basically, yeah. Basically, your goal is just to pump damage out. As much damage out as possible before their EMP is over. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, this I would replace, but Podgun might be pretty decent on Redeemer. Stormrack for Hemlock. I mean, I'm sure if that was a possibility, then you'd already have it. I'm trying to think of like stuff that's more accessible. Well, I say that, but then he's saying like maybe Savants. No. Savants are really, really bad against mods. Podguns are really, really good against mods. So make of that what you will. I got second in my tournament by 40 points. Oh, that's annoying. But yeah, okay. So yeah, if you can, then obviously Stormrack. Stormrack is a better missile rack. So if I'm recommending missile rack, then you know that Stormrack's going to be better. Carnage, did you ask something about like new stuff? I see you replying to No Name about something. I must have missed it. If you're asking about new mechs, then the mechs pretty reliably have a 7-week release schedule. So there was 7 weeks between, what was it, Lacewing and Blockhorn. And then 7 weeks between Blockhorn and what's its face? Mimicker. So there will most likely be 7 weeks between Mimicker and the next one, which is Phoenix, I think. So Mimicker was on the 16th. So yeah, it'll be like 5.5 weeks, I would guess. Carnage was asking when will Revoker get added for in-game resources. Okay. That much I don't really know. If you look at the Mech Arena Master database, it is sort of halfway almost consistent in that it tends to release weapons in order of their in-game release. So the next, we just had Cryo Launcher, right? The next one will be Quantum Gun, and then the one after that should be Storm Rack. There's typically like a 7-month gap between when the first weapon was released and when they get added to the Gear Hub. I would expect like at least another month or two before Quantums are added, and then probably another month or two before Storm Racks are added, if you're lucky. Because, I mean, to be fair, it is Storm Rack. They very well might pull the same thing that they're doing with Eclipse, which is just like Eclipse is selling really well, so they just don't bother putting it into Gear Hub at all, and then just like make you wait for an eternity and a half. Where should I add Disc 8s? Arv says. Disc 8s. I mean, the only thing that you can put them on right now is Guardian. So, put them on Guardian. Pretty good. I would recommend the Ember Guns on Killshot and the arc torrent's on slingshot because Ember Gun's better than arc torrent and kill shot's better than slingshot. So basically, you'd just be making this build way better, and then this build's just kind of like your backup. And then this just kind of is what it is, and then, you know, obviously this just also kind of just is what it is. Rank 2 nade 8s are probably not going to do you a whole lot of good, so yeah, disc launcher 8s will probably be very nice for you. Eclipse is a beast at max. Oh, I agree. Should I say for Panther 4-star? Upgrade right now. I have EM Rifle 8 on it. Oh, okay. So you have Panther at rank 3 is what you're saying. I have 1,500 Acoins, or should I save for Orion or Epic Weapon? If you have EM Rifles on Panther, there's not really any point to getting Orion just yet. Yeah. This is good. I would maybe put the missile racks on kill shot, and then the disc launchers on. Or no, the disc. Okay, you only got 12 energy. Missile rack might be better on kill shot. It's definitely gonna be better like 1v1. But like this is a better Zephyr build, and this might keep you alive for longer. Kind of just depends on what you're going for. I mean, you could definitely get Orion and then put the EM8s on Orion, and that would be pretty good. But then, like, what would you put on Panther? You'd probably want to put the probably like replace the Zephyr, and put the Panther. I mean, maybe you could put like Missile Rack on Panther, I suppose. It's not a terrible idea. Zephyr is most likely your weakest mech right now, though. Almost everybody gets rid of Zephyr like as quickly as possible after they get it, because even though it's cheap, it's not particularly good. RuFFles, do you think Revoker will get a nerf anytime soon or not because they keep rolling in cash? I think not, but I mean, I very much understand that you're trying to put me in a situation where there's two, like, I have two options. Either it gets a nerf or they're looking for money. I don't think they're going to nerf it, but I think the reason is because they're extremely, like, they don't like to nerf things. They nerf things maybe once every year or something. Like, when was the last that they nerfed Disc Launcher and Arc Torrent? And then what was the last thing they nerfed before that? I think the last thing that they nerfed before that was EM Rifle. And that was a long time ago. No, like, there's, like, obviously there's the Pilots update that changed a lot of stuff. There's the Great update that changed a lot of stuff. There was the Mod update that changed a lot of stuff. And those were indirect buffs and nerfs to certain things, but we're talking about direct buff, or direct nerf, I assume, anyway. Now, certainly they might add different... They might add new mods that sort of counter Revoker a bit better. I think that's actually the most likely thing to happen. Maybe they nerf Revoker as well, but I don't think that they will anytime soon, because it became meta very recently, and it took them 2 years to nerf Disc Launcher. I don't think it's going to. Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do it very quickly. Just a reminder for everybody, make sure that you're, like, read the pinned comment, because if you, like, if you put your ID in the chat like this, then you don't get added into the giveaway. Like, this doesn't count. You have to use ID colon, and then you can put it in like that, right? You could put a space here, you could put 2 spaces here, it doesn't really matter. But like you need these 3 characters right here. It's not case sensitive, you could do it like this. But you need the letter I, the letter D, and then a colon, followed by your ID. That's how you get entered into the giveaway. Otherwise, it won't. Like, yeah. Otherwise, it won't see it, and it won't pick up your ID. Make sure, like, especially if you're on mobile, pretty much every mobile device, if you type in ID colon like that, it'll autocorrect it with a capital I and then apostrophe and a lowercase d. Get rid of the apostrophe. This is fine. A capital I, lowercase d, that's perfectly fine. You could do a lowercase I and a capital D if you really wanted to. Like, it doesn't matter. But if you the apostrophe is going to mess things up. So make sure there's no apostrophe there, is essentially what I'm saying. Hooray, here's how I did. I got 4th in novice. I'm so proud. Two. Savant 16. Oh, is this like a... Why are they doing another crate for Savant 16? They literally already did one. That's freaking weird. Howler 6 though, that's funny. Kind of pointless though. I mean, it's definitely pointless. That's why it's funny. Team Killshot. Bro, I saw you freaking tagged me in a video. Do you not know who I am? I have one thing to say to you, one thing only. Eh. Howler is a weapon of all time. I agree. Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah, screw Killshot. Do you think there should be more ways of getting Acoins? Oh, for sure. If so, what ways? Or buff the existing ways? I don't... Okay, buffing existing ways completely out. You know how absolutely terrible the tournament system is? And how absolutely garbage it would be? First off, I'm not an advocate for having players compete for what should be their weekly earnings. I think everyone should get a reasonable amount. Everyone should be able to reliably get a reasonable amount every week without having to compete for others, without having to necessarily try to take it from others or have others take it from them. So I think the tournament system sucks as the main mode of getting Acoins. I think it's stupid. In terms of like how you could get Acoins, there's a lot of different ways. More daily tasks, more weekly tasks. I would be very okay with more weekly, especially because like you could triple this list, right? You could add all kinds of things to this list because it's a weekly thing, right? So I don't know why it's not really anything there. The daily tasks, you could add some Acoins to that. Probably not a lot, but like some. I'm not a huge fan of getting Acoins from events because once again, it's the sort of thing where it's like it only comes up if it comes up. Sometimes it doesn't. I think it should be something that's like built into the game, a daily or weekly task where like you know it's gonna come back, time and time again. That is the one nice thing about a tournament. But yeah, I definitely think that yeah, there should be way more Acoins circulating. That's the reason that I do these giveaways, you know. Well, I mean, like the one is from Plarium, and you know, they provide those Acoins themselves, but they don't provide this. This one's not from Plarium. I noticed new accounts don't get ads anymore. Why? I have no idea. I really could not. I really couldn't even guess. Because I mean, like they removed all the Acoins from those, right? They literally they gave you what credits into crates like blueprints, which are pretty useless as far as things go. But like you still get ad revenue. I have no idea. It could be something with like advertisers. It could be other things. I have no idea. Why aren't you reviewing hangars? Well, because the 2 hours are over and I'm about to end. I wanted to give people time to get their IDs in for the giveaway if they haven't already. I just told people like look at the pinned message. A lot of people were putting their ID in without the correct keyword prefix whatever thing, which means that you won't be entered into the giveaway if you do that. So I was just kind of giving people some extra time, including Benji here. Please add a colon to that, sir. And Yanglem money, you're gonna need to separate that. Read the pinned message if you can. Another review missed. I'm sorry. Okay, look. Because you're a member, I will look at it. Is there anything that you'd like to add? I don't know if you're a gifted member or not, but it doesn't matter. These are good. It's pretty decent. I would say get Aegis, because pretty much everybody of like 4,000 or 5,000 SP that I know of, like everybody's still saying that Aegis with Disc Launcher is like still incredibly good. This build is, it is what it is. I'm not surprised. Everybody's got like that random cursed build. These two are very nice. And then this is probably kind of the best that you got. Though probably Chain Gun would have been better. It's kind of too late for that. Yeah, not too bad. I saw you got mods going for these two. Unfortunately, you opted for Canopy. Okay. So, here's what I would say about mods. There are 2 mods that you absolutely don't want to skimp out on. And by skimp out on, I mean get the Epic. The Epic is like, the Epic is one you'll just end up getting a legendary for later. For these. The Shield and the Hardened Hull. Those are the 2 you should always get the legendary, don't bother getting the epics. The other 2 are actually pretty good if you just get epics. You probably won't even have to get legendaries. I have a maxed epic galvanic hull on my Seeker right now, and it's working very well. I don't have a canopy on anything. But the next point I'll make is that when it comes to mods, the most important mod is the shield mod on everything, right? The second most important one, I would say, is the Hardened Hull specifically on mechs that have damage resistance, because it multiplies it. The boost that you get gets multiplied by the damage resistance ability. So you should have put the Hardened Hull on Nomad and not the Canopy. I'll upgrade my Aegis to 4-star, so fair enough. Should I get better pilots, epic or legendary, or a dash mech, kill shot, or surge? I don't really have time to do another one, but more than likely, if you only have rare pilots, then it's definitely a good idea to get epic and legendary pilots. Dash mechs are also good, But I think you could ignore your pilots and just like keep moving along in terms of mechs, like keep getting better mechs, better weapons, whatever. But ultimately, if you neglect your pilots, none of that's going to matter. Your builds are going to be very weak because your pilots are very weak. So I would say get at least epic pilots on probably like 3 of your builds. So epic or higher on at least 3 of your 5 builds before worrying about, trying to get higher tiers. And then the pilots that I would go for specifically are like missile, close quarters, and barrage, mainly. It's crazy how the champion promo code gave every good crit except the champion crit. I know, right? Optimus, I hope you realize that that is not going to work. I did forget. Hold on. I said I was going to open up the Discord giveaway channel, but I didn't because I forgot. So there you go, Optimus. Please put it there. I'm going to leave it open for the next like 30 minutes. I'm going to end the stream. The way that this thing works is essentially a friend of mine made a bot that will collect these IDs from the stream. So what we have to do is we have to end the stream and then wait for YouTube to process the live chat replay, and then I can run it through the bot. It'll give me all the IDs. I will start a new stream so that we can choose the winner live still, because obviously I don't want anyone to think that it's being rigged or something. So we'll do that. I'll just start a new stream. Maybe it only lasts for like 30 minutes. I don't know. But it should only take like 30 minutes for YouTube to process this. So that is about how long I'm going to leave the Discord giveaway channel open for. If you want to enter through Discord, go ahead. If you already entered on YouTube, then don't bother, because it's the same thing. You don't get extra chances if you do it through both. When might Mimicker be for sale and flash deals? Pretty soon, I would say. They usually go a couple weeks before doing something like that. The Crate Rush event actually lasted not very long. Actually, in fact, when this crate ends is probably around the time that you would expect to see it. So, yeah. What if we fall asleep? Then you don't get to see who won. I mean, you still put your ID in, right? But you don't get to see who won. Is that scape? Yeah. We have scape emojis, the best emojis. Oh, you want? Okay, yeah. I should open these. There we go. Is the giveaway done? We're about to end this, and then I'm gonna wait for it to process, and then I'm gonna start a new stream and choose the giveaway then, the giveaway winner then. So yes, this would be the last time to enter. Benji, you're still not putting the colon in after the letter ID, so that that submission literally does not count. Like look at how other people are doing it. They have the ID and then the colon and then the number. Yes, exactly like that. All right. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people had questions that they wanted answered that they didn't get answered, but that's just because I get so many questions in these, and I get so many people wanting Hangar reviews. I can't look at everybody's. I only do this for like 2 hours because it's like it's kind of tedious. I don't know. I've been trying to make up for it. Honestly, what I've been trying to do for the most part is I've been trying to make up for it by, instead of Hangar reviews, I've been doing a lot more, what are they called? Dream Hangers videos. And I think those are better because I can give people more of like the kind of advice that they need in terms of what they're working toward. It doesn't necessarily apply to their current Hangar, but hopefully they can apply the logic that I'm using to their current Hangar. But yeah. I will see y'all in about 30 minutes. How many subs do you need to be in OCC? Technically 1,000, though they've let a lot of people in who had less. I think quite a few people have gotten in with only like 400. I don't think I've seen anyone get in with under 400, though. It's mostly a matter of like, do they think that you're, putting effort into your videos? Are you the type of creator that like kind of stands out in terms of Mech Arena content? If you're just making like random gameplay video with music, there's like at least 7 different people that do that, so that's pretty unlikely that you'll get in by doing that. Or at least pretty unlikely that you'll get in if that's the only thing that you do. I know Red does some of those, but he's mostly known for his other stuff. Benji, no worries. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure that you actually like got it correct. But yeah, I'll see y'all in a bit, probably like maybe 45 minutes tops, but you'll see another notification from me in a little while, and we'll choose the winner then. Appreciate y'all.